Back in the late 70s, a woman named Bert Allcroft was fascinated by the Reverend Dodger's Railway Series stories and wanted to adapt them to television. When approached by Brit, Dodger was skeptical at first, considering the last few attempts trying to adapt the stories were unsuccessful. But after showing him what Clearwater Features, the model crew, was capable of and a bit of further convincing, he was on board. So, a pilot for the story Down the Mind was commissioned and was successful at test audiences. Soon, production began on the first season, and on this day, 40 years ago, Thomas and Gordon first aired on TV. So today, in celebration of this big occasion, let's take a trip back to where it all started. Back to Thomas's first and most iconic season of all, Season 1. We are first established to Thomas, who, like most main characters, isn't perfect. He's cheeky, fussy, rude, impatient, while at the same time having a desire to see the world. And with his cheekiness comes teasing, of which he enjoys doing to the other engines, most of all, Gordon. Gordon is a proud but pompous engine, mainly boasting about being the biggest and strongest engine on the island. Eventually, Gordon gets fed up of Thomas's tricks, so as payback, the next time he pulled the express, he'd start as quickly as he can to keep Thomas coupled to the train to show him
what hard work means.
This episode does a great job as a stepping stone for the season, because of not only its ability to show off who the characters are, their personalities, and how to interact, but it also sets up later episodes that use the same episode structure. This structure would be mostly used in episode trilogies and what I like to call DEs, short for double episodes, where there are two episodes that continue the story of the other with the purpose to both introduce and or expand upon new characters. For example, Toby. In the episodes Toby and the Stout Gentleman and Thomas Breaks the Rules, we are introduced to Toby and the railway he and his coach Henrietta lived on, until it got shut down and both were taken out of service. Until the next day, when a note is written to Toby by a stout gentleman, soon revealed to be Mr. Topham Hatt, who had visited them before, telling them that he had been bought by him to work on his railway after Thomas got in some trouble with a policeman. These episodes follow the formula by showing off who Toby is, his personality, and how him and Topham interact. And this formula is genius because it uses the opportunity to expand upon the given character, even in their introduction episodes. But some characters get developed differently, like Henry, who got 2 DEs. In the episodes Come Out Henry and Henry to the Rescue, Henry stays in the tunnel to avoid rain from spoiling his paint, and in the process being a nuisance to both his passengers and Sir Topham Hatt. So, Topham brooks him up in the tunnel, and soon Henry regrets staying in and wants to come out again. But he soon gets his chance, after Gordon bursts his safety valve, in turn leading him and Edward pulling his express for him. And in the other 2 episodes, Cole and the Flying Kipper, we learn that Henry was designed with a smaller firebox, meaning he couldn't operate properly, and was needed/was given Welsh coal to reach his full potential, and he does. But he doesn't get too much long, since one night while pulling the Flying Kipper, is diverted onto a different line where a train was colliding into it. Because of how bad the damage was, he needed to be rebuilt, but this time was built with a bigger firebox, meaning he can now run properly without the need of special coal. These DEs have a good balance between showing off Henry's personality and how he changes as a character, and giving us some more info on his design flaws, further expanding upon his background. However, some characters don't even get DEs or trilogies as a whole, and that's mostly because of 2 reasons. Either there's a lot more to say about them, or either they don't need them. Most notably, Edward. Sure, Edward is involved with some DEs and trilogies, like the Tennyson Turntables trilogy and the Come Out Henry DEs, but he's not there because he needs a story arc, he's there so he can shape up the other characters' futures. Let me explain. For context, Edward is a mentor towards the other characters, mainly new and unexperienced engines, like Thomas or Percy, and in some cases is there to keep the bigger engines in order. For instance, when Percy first comes to Sodor after the big engines go on strike, the engine who is given to teach him around the yard is Edward, further proving his wisdom and worth. While on the topic of Blue Engines, let's talk about our other Blue Engine and main character, Thomas. Considering he's the main character, it's no surprise that he would make a lot more appearances than the others, but these episodes are all here for specific purposes, and aren't just thrown there because he's the main character. I'm looking at you, Hit. But what are these specific purposes? Well, it depends. Some episodes are centered around Thomas learning how to do different things, like pulling coaches and trucks. But at others, it's based around him meeting other characters. But if there's one thing they all share, it's his story arc. As each episode goes on, Thomas changes from being a rude, egotistical, and cheeky character into a still flawed but well-matured and useful engine. A good example of this is in the DEs Off the Rails and Down the Mine. In Off the Rails, Gordon, while trying to avoid pulling trucks, tries to jam the turntable so he can't pull them, but ends up slithering into a ditch and had to be saved later on. And in Down the Mine, Thomas makes fun of Gordon's smell from falling into the ditch, only for Kermit to creep up on him after he decides to pass a danger sign, in the process falling into a mine, being saved by, of course, Gordon. Soon they both realize they've both attempted dumb ideas and have caused a lot of trouble in the process. With both in disgrace, they decide to form an alliance.
You help me and I'll help you.
Together as two puff home. Down the Mine represents how Thomas and as well as Gordon have changed as characters. In the beginning, both had disliking toward each other, whether that be because of their cheekiness or their big ego. Now wrapping up their rivalry as well as the season. Minus Thomas's Christmas party. Began with rivals, ended with friends. Season 1 was the starter point that gave us everything we needed to know about this series feature, and how it all clicks together. Season 1 is more than a season. It's a story, developing its characters to its fullest potential, showing off the realistic world they lived in, and making it all feel connected in such a way that it makes skipping episodes feel near impossible to do going into the next. This season created both a 40-year-long legacy and as well as a community that will only continue to strive. All thanks to these three people, and I will be forever grateful. Thank you.